On today's show, embarrassed. Embarrassed. They should all be embarrassed. Except maybe Daniel Gafford. But everybody else, be embarrassed by that loss. We'll talk about it on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We have cracked.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being in every day or making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter, your one stop for the best news and analysis on the Dallas Mavericks every day. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Now is the perfect time to join, download the app, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. And joining me, as always, on a postgame, the postgame prodigy. We're matching. We didn't even mean to. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
They're in some danger. That's it. They're in some jeopardy here. One step forward, a million steps back in this stretch here, feels like.
Not feeling great about the Dallas Mavericks. They lose to the Charlotte Hornets. A weird 11 a.m. local time game here in Dallas. And there's a lot of things to go through, and there's a lot of blame to go around. We'll talk about Daniel Gafford, the one bright spot in this game. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about Kyrie's fourth quarter run, a couple of good things in this game. But overall, let's start here. This is embarrassing for the Dallas Mavericks. There's no way you should lose this game. You have Kyrie. You're missing Luka. You're missing Lively. You're missing, Grimes was a late scratch with back spasms. Another concerning thing that we can throw onto the heaping pile of concerning things for the Dallas Mavericks right now. Obviously, you're missing Hardy and Dwight Powell. But to go into that game and have at least half of your rotation against this Charlotte Hornets team that is terrible and has the second worst offense in the NBA. It's the Wizards and then it's them. They also have the 21st ranked defense in the NBA. And to go in there and to just get beat in the fourth quarter, beat in late game execution by a team that doesn't win games. A Charlotte Hornets team that has now won 11 games. 11. And you get beat in late game execution. That's all around. That's coach. That's players, star player. That's everybody that was involved in this game. Terrible mistakes down the stretch where you just say one of these teams is supposed to be a finals team, a playoff team, and the other one is supposed to be in the lottery and is in the lottery right now. And it didn't look like it at the end of this game.
And a team that's one of the worst clutch teams in the league, bottom four in clutch win percentage. They have the most clutch losses in the league. And you got out executed down the stretch against a team like that. Last 5 minutes of the game, your only bucket was a Daniel Gafford putback dunk. Not even like a layup, not a, we got the ball to Gafford in the post and he went to work, not a three. It was a putback dunk off of a miss. So, I mean, that's about as bad of a loss as you can draw up. I mean, they came into the game as 7.5 point favorite. So it's, they're missing guys, of course, but that doesn't mean everything, but Vegas knows their stuff. And the Mavs, 7.5 points is huge. Like, that's a big spread,
especially on the road.
Yeah, on the road. That's a big, you're supposed to win that game. And that's just an inexcusably bad loss during a stretch where you have to claw your way to every win. We know that. We've talked about it. You can't take any games off. You can't take any games for granted. You got to get the wins where you can get them. And in a game like this against one of the worst teams in the league, you have to find a way to win it. You just do. Because now you have the Timberwolves, Celtics, and Thunder coming up, your next three. And you're one game out of the 11th seed currently. So I don't know. We one step forward, a million steps back during this stretch. It feels like every time it feels like, all right, they found their footing. Like they beat the Thunder and yeah, they almost blew a huge 20-point lead, but they still found a way to win. Then you go out and you lose to the Hornets 2 days later. And it's just like, okay, where are we now?
And you go back to even that Nuggets game that we talked about. The Mavs had a chance in that one and then just blew it late, late execution in that one. They didn't have Kyrie, so maybe you give them an excuse on there. But these last couple of games, it's just this team is so confounding. And that's why I usually try to start these games with, all right, let me give you some kind of take. Let me give you some kind of opinion or something. I guess my opinion right now is that this team is not playing like a team that is a finals contending team, at least the rest of the rotation. And I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's enough to say, well, they're just missing Luka. If Luka comes back, it's all fixed. A lot of things will be fixed. A lot of things will. But the fact that they're playing like this, I don't know. I've tried to give Jason Kidd a lot of credit this season and say, all right, well, he's missing a bunch of guys. And yeah, he was missing guys tonight too. This morning. he was missing guys. Weird early game, I guess. I don't know. The worst Magnets game of the entire season for the Mavericks. We'll talk about that. But Jason Kidd not being able to get his team to execute down the stretch again and again and again, having Spencer Dinwiddie initiate offense. I understand if you're missing guys and down guys. Every once in a while late, Spencer Dinwiddie's going to have to create something. But for it to be over and over again to do that, to have Gafford have such an advantage over and over again and not go to it late in this game, like you said, the only bucket that the Mavs had in the last 5 minutes was Gafford on a putback. It wasn't even an attempted post up for him or a pick and roll for him. You got to go to something. He had such an advantage. Mark Williams had 4 fouls with when did he get his 4th foul?
Second quarter, didn't he?
Second quarter, 7:35, and he finishes with 4 fouls. Like, you got to attack that guy. I mean, feels like I'm doing the classic, like parent of a child in a rec league basketball. Why did you attack this guy? You got to attack him. He's got fouls. But let's just, go through the last couple of minutes of this game, the last 5 minutes of this game. Kyrie goes on his 10-0 run, which is all Kyrie. Pull up 3. Fouled on a 3-point shot by Josh Green. Thank you for that, Josh Green. A steal and a score, all Kyrie. Got fouled again, hit 2 free throws. 10-0 run, they're up 100-94, which is a 6-point lead. Is not huge in the NBA, but you had the momentum. Kyrie was going great, and none of that was designed. It was all just Kyrie being a star player. Then, PJ gets, then you get PJ a turnover on a drive. The turnovers late were brutal too. Turnover, just sloppy play. You get the Hornets got a Bridges putback, which is an offensive rebound. How many offensive rebounds did was
that off the Josh Green missed corner 3?
Yeah, missed the 3. And
that right
Bridges
there also is. We've said during the stretch I was happy with the team's effort and stuff. I thought today was a joke. And honestly, that play right there, Josh Green wide open corner 3. All right, whatever. We give that up. Sometimes it happens. Then you have 4 guys under the basket just staring at the ball, praying it falls to them. And nobody puts a body on anybody when they crash the glass. I mean, that's inexcusable, man. That cannot happen.
The Mavs got 16 offensive rebounds of their own, so it was kind of the same on the other side. And you get maybe an early game, and that not everybody's on their toes when it comes to that. But for the Mavs to give those up, like the Mavs, the ones that they gave up were just brutal in this one. So you get the Bridges put back. It's tie game, 102-102. Kyrie's lead that he created completely obliterated. Gafford gets a huge block on the next play, but then Charlotte recovers. They get a 3. They're up by 3. Then Dallas missed like 3 or 4 or 5 shots at the rim when PJ and Gafford were just going at the rim. They missed those. Charlotte misses 2 shots, so they get another offensive rebound. Kyrie hits 1 out of 2 free throws after he gets fouled off of 2 offensive rebound attempts there. Then you get this play that just is so frustrating, and I'm going to give Gafford so much credit when we talk about him in the next thing here. But 3 minutes, and Gafford hedges on. He comes over and he guards off of a screen. He goes up to the ball handler and guards the ball handler and just completely lets Mark Williams get a wide open dunk under the rim, where there's just not communication between the ball handler's man and Gafford. And this happens so many times. And if somebody would like to explain to me that he's doing the right thing there, I would love for that to be explained to me, because to me, it just looks like he's not switching or recovering. It just doesn't look like he's doing the right thing over and over again, because it leads to these open dunks. And maybe it's the low man that was supposed to come over and help on Mark Williams, but that led to a completely wide open dunk, gave the Hornets a 4-point lead with 3 minutes left. Kyrie misses a jumper. Then you get Dinwiddie throws a bad pass. PJ tries to throw it off LaMelo, another turnover late. Then you get the Gafford offensive rebound. And then you get what I consider another turnover. Was Naji plays great defense. Miles Bridges has to throw up a crazy 3 with a minute left, and he gets a wedgie right before the shot clock goes off, which then turns into a jump ball that Dallas loses. So then the Hornets get another possession. That's technically a turnover right there. Just bad timing. And then you get the Kyrie turnover that was supposed to be for Naji in the corner. And the rest of the game is just you're trying to play the foul game, trying to play the turnover game there. But there's not like one good possession in that whole stretch that I just mentioned for the Mavericks.
Yeah, and it's this strategy that they have that I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail, but let's go back to the Gafford thing. Is that I think that was their coverage on these screens, because they had a few plays with Mark Williams rolling to the rim where the low guy came down and altered their shot at the rim. So that's not Gafford's strength really, and they almost never do it, but it did feel like that was a thing that they went to today in an effort to make Mark Williams finish over a defender or, play make out of the short roll. But offensively, man, look, I've defended this because I think it's important that you bring in ball handlers and guys who can dribble the ball a little bit, so Kyrie and Luka don't have to bring the ball up and deal with ball pressure for 48 minutes because it wears and tears on their body. And over the course of a season, that stuff really matters. And you want to go to the playoffs healthy. You want to go to the playoffs, as healthy as possible, I guess. And they're already dealing with injuries, so that's why this stuff is important. But in the last 4 or 5 minutes of a game, you give the ball to your guy and you get out the way. Like I know the Mavs offense can look stagnant at times when they do the Luka or Kyrie isolation ball late in games, but the reality is those are two of the best guys to ever do that in the history of the sport. So that's why you bring them in. The game slows down offensively and all this stuff. So you give the ball to them and get out the way. Dinwiddie dribbling the ball for 20 seconds in an effort to try and get Kyrie free off ball is horrible. I mean, that's awful. They do it with Luka too. Like, it's just have those guys bring it up in the last 4 or 5 minutes.
A lot of decisions were frustrating. We'll talk about some of those decisions. We'll also give credit to Daniel Gafford, who had his best game of the season, maybe the best game of his career today. We'll talk about that. What does that mean for Gafford in his career, and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. We've got the NFL playoffs we talked about on the game yesterday. Still the same lines. Bills 1.5 point underdog at the Chiefs, and you got the Commanders 5.5 point underdog against the Philadelphia Eagles. If you want to get in on that, right now is the time to do it. You put down $5 and you can get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So find something you think is a guaranteed win. If you're like, all right, there's no way the Chiefs are blowing this game, put it on the money line, -126 for the Chiefs to win that game. There's all kinds of NBA stuff as well, futures for the NBA and all kinds of things like that. You've also got college basketball, you got college football with the championship. If you're listening to this before that, Ohio State 8.5 point favorite against Notre Dame. Interesting. So go check that out. See what's available for you. Join FanDuel.com. Join today. Get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you, our listeners, the Raccoon Squad. That's what we call you guys. I appreciate it. It's still hilarious. Anytime I see somebody in the wild, IRL, and they just yell Raccoon Squad at me, and just still, it's just one of the funniest things. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. Go check out the links in the description and the QR code for different ways to follow the show. Just because the Mavericks are making you upset doesn't mean you can't keep following the show. That's all I'll just say about that.
Yeah.
All right, Slightly. Guys, Slightly he's just staring off camera. He's just, if you're listening,
I'm looking at
there's a malaise and there's a rage in Slightly's gaze right now that I have not seen in a little while.
They're just better than this, man. They are. They truthfully are.
That's a frustrating thing. We've known that this team can be better than this, and then we've just been throwing it to injuries. And now a game like this where you go, man, it just did not have the late game execution. That I thought Klay played a terrible game.
Yeah, I do too.
He also had a shot late that would have the shot with 5 seconds left that would have tied the game or given him a 1 point lead. That would have been.
How do you feel about that shot? Because that was a tough shot. He missed it, but I mean, I think late in the game like that, I don't know if you're getting much better look than that.
I didn't mind the look. He did hesitate on it, but didn't he have? I think he had Mark Williams running out on him.
Someone was closing out, so he got the flyby and then a little hesitation. But we see him hit that shot all the time. I saw a lot of people upset they didn't call a timeout there and were upset with that shot. I think down 3, defense is selling out to stop the 3 and will probably foul you if you go to a side out situation. I thought that was about as clean of a look as you could have hoped for, all things considered.
Yeah, it wasn't like the greatest look they could have ever gotten. Maybe
you're not getting a great look there, more than likely.
Right, but yeah, it was okay. I didn't mind it, but I just thought that it just put a stamp on the fact that I thought Klay had a bad game. Played 30 minutes. He played 30 minutes and he only took 5 shots, 1 of 2 from 3. Had 3 awful turnovers, couple of assists, couple of rebounds, but man, just not doing a whole lot out there, which is okay when you've got multiple guys and you've got everybody else out there and other people are contributing. But in a game like this, that's tough. And then, but I don't know who Kid goes to at the end of this game because I find myself frustrated. Why is Klay in there in these late game moments? I'm like, well, Naji didn't have a great game either. 3 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, 4 assists, 5 boards, but he had 3 turnovers too. It's like, okay, just running out of options at this point. And Kidd didn't play any guards off the bench. None. I mean, Hardy's out, Luka's out, Exum's out. You didn't go with Brandon Williams or Jason Gortman. They weren't on the injury report. I was assuming that they were going to be available, and I texted everybody that subscribes to Locked On Mavs Insiders. I was like, I expect those guys to play, and they didn't at all. And to me, that's a decision that I don't think those guys changed the game for the Mavericks, but maybe they spell Kyrie for more than 8 minutes in a game and give him more energy so that he can play. He can go further into the fourth quarter and play harder into the fourth quarter. And I thought that could have been a decision. Can we play Brandon Williams 8 minutes here or there just to give Kyrie some more time, or 5 minutes? I don't know. It was just frustrating to see. Why is Kyrie playing 40 minutes against the Charlotte Hornets at 11 at noon?
Yeah, I mean, they needed him. He had that old Luka minute structure where he was playing the entirety of the first and third quarters, basically. And then whenever the fourth quarter starts and it's just horrible, you have a couple of grenades thrown to Kessler Edwards to start the fourth quarter. He misses from 3. You see Kyrie get off the bench immediately after that second Kessler Edwards miss. Is like, all right, they need somebody out on the court who can, I can put the ball in the hands of and feel confident in. And look, Kidd deserves a ton of blame for this, obviously. I mean, this was there's some stuff that is just mind-numbing. But the players got to play better too, man. I mean, some of these turnovers are just like, what is happening here? Some of the, like, Cody Martin was beating PJ Washington off the dribble with one dribble. They're just getting past him in one dribble, and now the defense is collapsing, and they're having, they're shooting wide open threes, or there's a layup line. Like, there's just so many things. The effort on the boards at times. There's just so many things that just have to be better. Top to bottom.
What I was thinking at the end of this game? If the Mavs are 10 games over 500, and they were playing pretty well and all that, if they were where the Nuggets are right now, they're 26-16. If the Mavs were there, we'd look at this game and go, "Oh, early game, Mavs didn't put all of it in there. Oh, traveling, all that stuff." We would have just chalked it up to that because it is one of that. But the problem is the Mavs can't do that. The Mavs are not. You're not in a position to have these low effort, low energy type games. So many injuries. We just kind of chalk it up to that. But they aren't in a position to do that right now, which is why it's so frustrating. I want to talk about Daniel Gafford though before we move on to anything. We'll throw more blame. Start throwing the blame, L's everywhere. Daniel Gafford, though, best game of his career, probably. 31 points, 15 boards, 3 assists, 7 blocks for Daniel Gafford, 8 offensive rebounds, 12 of 15 from the field, 7 of 7 from the free throw line. He was just awesome. This is a classic Gafford game where going into it, you say Gafford should be able to play in this game. He should be able to dominate. He should be awesome because they had Mark Williams. But they don't really have a backup center. Like Moussa Diabate is their backup. What's he like? He's got to be like 6'9".
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
and just not very
boards, but
just not very big. And so Gafford has the advantage there. And this should have been a big game for Gafford, and it completely was. And I just thought he was great in a lot of aspects. And I know I mentioned a couple of mistakes he made late, but if you get this game from him and he makes just a couple of mistakes like that, maybe he was responsible for a couple of those offensive rebounds we were frustrated about, but. What more can you ask from Daniel Gafford, like this level of player?
Nothing. I mean, this was a great game from Gaff. Seriously. I remember we talked about it whenever Lively went down with his ankle injury. That, again, another one of these Lively falls and he's out 3 to 5 games. But we talked about this could be really big for Gafford because he had been struggling. He had been really struggling. Like the worst stretch since he got traded to the Mavericks. And he's really stepped up. I mean, that Pelicans game was incredible. I thought he played really well against the Thunder, even though his stat line wasn't amazing. I just thought his presence on the court, you really felt it when he was on there on the floor in that game. And then today, I mean, 31 points, 15 rebounds. How many of those offensive rebounds? 8 offensive rebounds, 7 blocks. I mean, how are you not winning that game as a team? You get a performance like that from your center. In 34 minutes too, I thought there was a stretch in the fourth where Maxey was just getting cooked. And I was like, man, you should Gafford be out there, but then you look. I mean, 34 minutes is a lot for a guy for a guy who doesn't play minutes that heavily.
And they bring him in as an energy guy, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 34 minutes is got to be some of the most he's played in his career, right?
Gafford was turning into he hit a dream shake. He had like a turnaround like lefty hook. He just was bodying guys. He was doing everything, man. And it was like you said, how do you lose that game where he has such a great game like that? But for him as a whole, I saw you say this during the game. He needed a week like this.
Yeah, he really did. And hopefully these are the things where the season from hell kind of turns into, all right, well, Lively had some opportunities to do things where he had the ball in his hands more than usual, and he got to do, self-creation stuff that you probably wouldn't see if other guys were on the court. Now Gafford is getting that opportunity, and he's had a great week. So hopefully this gets him going in the right direction moving forward, and we just kind of get back to that point where Gafford was at last year. It was like, what? Gafford just went 12 of 12 from the field in that game. So I'm looking it up right now. This is some of the most minutes he's played in a game in his career. So yeah, frustrated with the stretches where he wasn't on the court, but you can't just plug guys into 40 plus minutes when they're not 40 plus minutes guys. Usually it's really hard.
Yeah. And there's a reason why there are role players that aren't, I've talked about this a lot, that are 100% players. Like Kyrie is a 100% player. You expect him to do his thing 100% of the time. There are guys that are 50% players, 25% players. The Mavericks are now playing with Kyrie and a bunch of guys that are like 25 to 33% players, maybe 50% players. And if you get all of them on the wrong night, like today, then all of a sudden you lose that game, and it's absolutely frustrating. There's so much other blame to go around in this game, but Gafford, I thought, was just the one bright spot. Played so well, deserves some credit in this one. Did everything that he could to get the Mavs this win, and the Mavs just came up short late in the game, late in game execution. Coming up, let's talk about a couple of the reasons why they lost this game. It was the biggest Magnets game for the Mavericks. Can we just maybe take that as like a little bit of solace that they lost this game on that? We'll talk about that, discuss it more.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks daily fantasy made easy. Go check out Prize Picks in your area. If you're in Texas, I'm in Texas. Slightly's in Texas. So many of us are in Texas because it's the Dallas Mavericks. You can play Prize Picks. Gotta love that. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You pick a bunch of different players. You can combine NFL, college. You can combine NBA, all the different things. You pick, let's say, Kyrie Irving, 30.5. You can pick more or less on his points. You can do let's say they put Gafford 7 rebounds. You can do more or less on that. And you just pick a bunch of different things like that. And if you win all of them, you can, like you said, win up to 1,000 times your cash and put your money where your mouth is. It just takes 60 seconds if you want to play it. Put something down. It makes it fun to watch some of these games. The perfect time to join right now. Download the app today, Prize Picks. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed if you use that code LOCKEDONNBA. Download the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly. You and I use the term Magnets game a lot. This is the worst Magnets game for the Mavericks the entire season. I went through it. The Mavericks shot 6 of 32 from 3, 18.8%. Got to be one of their worst of the season. I didn't look that up, but it has to be one of their worst of the season. 6 threes made? There's no, it's like, how many times?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Hornets, 17 of 39, made 43.6%. That equates to a 24 percentage point difference in the differential between the 3-point. Like the other worst one was a game December 19th against the Clippers, 19% percentage point difference. And then there's 2 games against the Nuggets on there. One of them was the one January 14th, an 18 percentage point difference. Another one was the one back in November, a 15 percentage point difference. I believe they won that game. They won one of those Nuggets games. But the worst Magnets game for the Mavericks, where it feels like the Magnets are turned on for the Hornets and are polar opposite for the Mavericks. Are you taking anything from that it's just a make or miss league and that they missed all their threes and the Hornets made a bunch of theirs? The Mavericks only made 6 threes. Kyrie made 3. You had Naji made 1. PJ made 1. Klay made 1. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier, if the Mavs were 10 games over 500, we definitely look at this game and are like, oh, well, I mean, you're not going to win any games. Going 6 of 32 from 3, being outscored by 33 points from the free throw or from the 3-point line. Like you're not going to win those games more often than not. The 3-point shooting wise, I think it was just a bad shooting day for the Mavs. I don't know how much I take away from it. I thought they got pretty clean looks. You just didn't make them. Spence went 0 of 6. Kyrie even went 3 of 8, and those 3 were in a flurry. So it wasn't like he was spreading those out. PJ 1 of 5, all clean looks. Naji 1 of 6. How many of those are open corner threes? Even the 2 threes that Kessler Edwards missed were pretty decent. Pretty decent looks. I don't know if you really are like making on a Kessler Edwards 3 to go in, but yeah, I mean,
I'd be okay if it banked in.
Yeah, cool. I would love a make 3 at that point. Defensively, though, sometimes you just give up 3 points. Teams just get really red hot from 3. I thought defensively, I thought their point of attack and defense again was so bad in this game, and I thought that was a big reason why the Hornets got a lot of clean looks from 3, and a lot of it was just some 3-point shooting luck that didn't go the Mavs' way, but still.
Well, one of the point of attack things, they took 39 threes, 28 assists.
Yeah,
for the Hornets, only 19 for the Mavericks. So that's drive kicks, throw the ball around. Mavs playing chase on defense. If your effort's not there, then you're getting a good look. If you're the Hornets, we've said that over and over again this season.
Okay, I just looked it up. The Mavs in the Luka era have only had 4 games where they've attempted 30 or more threes and have made 6 or fewer.
In the whole Luka era, I was just thinking about this season.
This would be the 6th time, and they've lost all of them. So realistically, you're just not. And I know Luka didn't play in this game, but I just went back the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But that's just you're just not going to win a lot of games in the league that way.
It says something about the Mavericks that they had a chance in this game with that different of a 3-point percentage look, but you also outscored them by 10 on the free throw line. So it's like I'm not taking any. I'm not taking it.
They're not getting blown out. Like they're not getting blown out in these games. But it is just
it's not enough for me.
It's not enough. No, you that stopped being cool a week and a half ago.
There's something about following every game. If you've listened to us and you followed every game, the turn of this season has been insane.
Well, you just know these games are going to be so important, and you just know how difficult it's going to be to win some of these. It's just you got to win the ones where on paper it feels like you should take care of business pretty comfortably in.
We saw the first quarter minutes of Kessler Edwards. You mentioned him a couple times. That was the first time he's played first quarter minutes this whole season.
Apparently he popped off in the G League a few nights ago, so that's probably has something to do with it. But
he was a solid NBA player. I thought he may be able to contribute. He was on the Kings and playing actual minutes for them a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean I don't have much to say about that.
Omax, we haven't mentioned Omax a lot lately. Omax he's been playing well in certain stretches, and then you have the game the other night where I think it was it OKC, where he passes up 2 wide open corner threes in a row, like 2 possessions in a row. He passes that up. It just feels, again, like a couple steps forward, couple steps backward for Omax. But I thought he actually played really well in this game, especially in the first half. Total for the game, 6 points, 8 rebounds. He had an assist. He had a steal. He took a couple of threes, but got to the free throw line, which is something that I've really wanted to see from him. One of the things early on in his rookie year was that he would be able to get to the free throw line. He'd get the ball, he'd drive, and he would make guys panic, and then all of a sudden they foul him. And even though he wasn't finishing, he at least got to the free throw line. That was something I thought that he could really do. And then he also had a Euro step floater that looked exactly like Naji. It looked like he just stole that move straight from Naji, which is great. If Omax can make that move in transition and that stops him from just driving into a guy and doing something reckless, then that's great. But I thought Omax played all right today.
Yeah, Omax. His energy was much needed for this team. This weird early start time against a team you would hope to beat. I thought he was really good in his minutes, especially early on. He has to shoot threes. That's it. He passes up way too many good looks. He did again in this game. He has to shoot those, or else I don't know what his role is going to be in the NBA, truthfully. But yeah, I mean, his energy's been really good, and I mean, he shows the flashes where you squint and you see it, but it's really going to come down to him shooting threes. He's not good enough at any other thing on the court to justify not shooting wide open threes and having defenses not even account for you.
That's it. And that's why we haven't really brought him up. And I've even seen some comments where people say, why haven't you even talked about Omax? He's been playing great lately. I'm like, well, the one thing he needs to do, like the one that he's still been passing up threes and not taking them. And you need to have confidence in that, because that's the thing that you're going to be given if Luka and Kyrie are back and you expect to be playing on a winning team if you're Omax.
Yeah, and that's really it. I mean, he has some of the skills and traits of the prototypical, wing in today's NBA, but it's just putting it all together, and it's just the 3-pointer's a huge swing for him. It is. I mean, that's just goes back to what I said earlier. I don't know if he does one thing so well that it sort of makes up for it on the court. He does a couple of things really well, and he plays with great energy and effort, and that's great to see. But yeah, I mean, he played well today, and he's had some pretty good minutes lately, but passing up the open threes is the part.
Yeah, let's hope that he keeps building on it and hope that he keeps getting better at that. He's got to take those threes, and that's the thing that we're going to be looking at for him going forward.
Yep, that's it.
That's the Mavericks against the Hornets, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Check the QR code and the links in the description wherever you're listening, watching this for different ways to follow the show. Go check out Slightly Biased, great YouTube channel. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
It'll get better, guys. Or maybe not. I don't know.